Yes, Amol, you can start now.
Very good morning to all of you. I would like to welcome today's resource person, coordinator, respected faculty members and fellow students who have gathered here today for this webinar. I am grateful to have each and every one of you here. Our college has organized this one-day webinar under lead college activity on convergence of science, technology, innovation and IPR. Now we will see what is the IPR. IPR are the rights given to a person over the creation of their minds, inventions, literary and artistic works, symbol names,
There is some technical error. Wait for a minute.
I request you all the participants, please unmute yourself. Yes, Mr. Amol, you can start now. Please unmute yourself.
दूसरा गुण आया तो मैं तीसरा
Amol, please unmute yourself.
very good morning to all of you. I would like to welcome today's resource person, coordinator, respected faculty members, and
Amol, please unmute yourself. Amol.
yes, as unmuted.
Yes, you can start now, Amol. You can start now. Yes, you can start now.
A very good morning to all of you. I would like to welcome today's resource person, coordinator, respected faculty members, and the fellow students who have gathered here today for this webinar. I am grateful to have each and every one of you here. Our college has organized this one-day webinar under the lead college activity on the convergence of science, technology, innovation, and IPR. IPR is nothing but intellectual property rights, the rights which are given to a person over the creation of their minds, inventions, literary and artistic works, and the symbol, names, and images used in commerce. These rights are outlined in Article 27 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which provides for the right to benefit from the protection of moral and material interest resulting from an authorship of scientific, artistic productions. The importance of intellectual property was first recognized in Paris Convention for the Protection of Industrial Property in 1883 and the Berne Convention for the Protection of Literary and Artistic Works in 1886. Both the treaties are administered by World Intellectual Property Organization, that is WIPO. The intellectual property rights are customarily divided into two main areas, that is copyrights and rights related to the copyrights and industrial properties. What is the need of an IPR? It encourages innovation, it encourages economic growth, it safeguards the rights of the creators, it promotes innovation and creativity, and ensures ease of doing business. It facilitates the transfer of technology in the form of foreign direct investment, joint ventures, and licensing. India is a member of the World Trade Organization and committed.
I request to all the participants, please mute your mic. प्लीज कृपया पार्टिसिपेंटने आपले माइक म्यूट करा. मिस्टर सुनील कुलकर्णी, डिस्टर्बन्स येतोय मीटिंग मध्ये. मिस्टर सुनील कुलकर्णी. Yes, Mr. Amol.
Sorry for the interruption. India is a member of the World Trade Organization and committed to the agreement on the trade-related aspect of intellectual property, that is TRIPS agreement. India is also a member of the World Intellectual Property Organization, a body responsible for the promotion of the protection of intellectual property rights throughout the world. India is also a member of the following important WIPO administered international treaties and conventions related to the IPRs, that is Budapest Treaties, Paris Conventions, Convention establishing the World Intellectual Property Organization, Berne Conventions, Patent Cooperation Treaty, Washington Treaty, Nairobi Treaty, and others. Now, I would like to request our coordinator and our librarian, Professor Avinash Sawange sir, for the welcome address and introduction of today's resource person.
Thank you so much, Mr. Amol, for the introduction. Today we are going to organize a lead college activity entitled The Convergence of Science, Technology, Innovation with IPR, that is Intellectual Property Right. Am I audible properly, Mr. Amol?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Due to some busy schedule, our principal, Rami Saudi sir, is not ready to attend today's webinar. So first of all, it's my pleasure to welcome up today's resource person, Ms. Natasha Martin, Assistant Professor, Symbiosis Law School, Pune. We are organizing a seminar under the Deep College activity So before start the webinar, be clear about what is the lead college and the mission and objectives of lead college. A lead college, it is an homogeneous cluster of 7 to 15 colleges within an area fostering inter-institutional cooperation for overall development of all of them in the basic principles behind the concept of lead college. The concept is based on the belief that is efforts of each and welfare of all. In Western countries, lead colleges are now a matter of routine activity. But for us, it is a very recent idea still to be talked about. Our mission is to make our colleges and the institution of higher education achieve nationally and internationally acceptable standards. Today we are choose the topic of webinar is convergence of science, technology, innovation, and intellectual property right. As we know, what is the IPR? The intellectual property rights are the rights given to persons over the creation of their minds. They usually give the creator an exclusive right over the use of his or her creation for a certain period of time. The primary function of intellectual property right is to protect and stimulate the development and distribution of new products and the provision of new services based on the creation and exploitation of invention, trademarks, designs, creative content, or other intangible aspects. Intellectual property in India is a term that refers to brand, invention, design, and any other kind of creation over which the person or the business is having legal rights. I request to the participant, please mute your mic. Please follow the ethics. Almost all the businesses, as we are discuss about the intellectual property right, almost all businesses own some form of intellectual property that can be considered as a business asset. The intellectual property rights in India mainly include encompassing trademarks, copyrights, patents, trade secrets, and designs, etc. Each category of intellectual property covers a different group of properties and work. And it is necessary to choose the right category to safeguard the work and the business property. So this is the very important topic in the present era, that is the convergence of science, technology, and innovation with intellectual property right. And today we have a resource person named as Ms. Natasha Rajiv Martin. About her biodata, she is our proud alumni. She has completed Bachelor of Laws in our college in the year 2014 to 2019. She has completed Master in Laws at Symbiosis Law School, Pune in the year 2019 to 2020. Her master dissertation topic is Intellectual Property Policy, Patent Law, and the Support Mechanism for Women Inventors in India. She worked in different law firms like Advocate Dhananjay Madhwana and Associate Law Firm Sangli, Legal Intern at HRLN Mumbai, Legal Intern Advocate Abhay Nevgi and Associates Law Firm Pune, and Legal Intern at Advocate Santosh Shah and Associate Law Firm Kolhapur. When we are looking about her skills and communication, leadership and organizational skills, use of innovative technologies for teaching and problem solving and critical thinking, and so on. She also interested in public speaking, classical and Western singing, yoga, Bharatanatyam, etc. She knows 4 languages like Marathi, Hindi, English, and Malayalam. So today have a great personality, especially in the field of law, as well as intellectual property right. So without taking too much time, I would like to request Ms. Natasha Martin, ma'am, to start your session. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for that really nice introduction. I would like to say, first of all, good morning to everybody that is present here. Good morning, students. Good morning to the faculty, and good morning to everybody else. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. A.M. Saudi, sir, the principal of NSOT Law College, Sangli, for giving me this opportunity to speak on the subject that is quite close to me and is my field of specialization as well. I'd also like to thank Professor A.B. Sarunke, sir. Thank you for your introduction, sir, and also thank you for the coordination to make this lecture possible. Also, I'd like to thank Professor A.V. Kulkarni, ma'am, who had contacted me earlier on about this lecture. So thank you to ma'am also. Thank you to all the faculty at NS. And it feels wonderful, really, to be speaking at my alma mater, really. Now, before I begin, sir has already introduced. I was going to say something about myself, but sir has already introduced me. But before I begin, let me ask you, I request all of you to please put your mics off. Now, if you have any questions, do raise your hand. I will answer them. And also, at the end of the session, we will have a question and answer session. All right? So no need to be worried. Maybe you can note your questions down and we will answer the questions at the end. That would be ideal. Now, can you take a look at the picture that is before you? You can all see my screen, right? So please take a look at the picture before you. Here you can see how there is a combination of technology. Here, all the different technologies. Here you can see virtual reality. Here you're seeing flying spaceships, new infrastructure, different kinds of infrastructure and modes of transportation. Here you can see nature, and here you can see the brain, which means the creation of all these things is from the brain. All right, and that is why today we are going to talk about a subject which is an intersection. It is a mix and a balance which needs to be achieved. The convergence means coming together of science, technology, and innovation with intellectual property rights. Now, this lecture can be, even if you are not an IPR student, if you are not, I know you have 5th year IPR, am I right? 5th year you have intellectual property rights subject. But even if you're not an IPR student, you will still understand a lot because this is the practical application of IPR subject. Okay. So let's begin with the presentation. Today we'll be covering 3 main points. First of all, we'll be talking about what is science, technology, innovation, and IPR. Then we'll be talking about the convergence of these two, science, technology, IPR, science, technology, innovation, and IPR, the convergence. And then what are the concrete proposals? What can we do about it? All right. So starting with a short introduction. Now, as you know, over the period of time, there has been a growth in science and technology, correct? Which has resulted in an increase in standards of living. There are new medicinal treatments, new machines which are available. There are more innovations that are made so that now we can go to space and we can go to the deepest parts of the sea. In fact, with climate change and with awareness about climate change, also technology relating to sustainable practices, renewable resources, and renewable equipment has also grown. So, because of all this, there is this book known as Sapiens. Look at this. You can take a look at this. This is the book known as Sapiens, and this was written by Yuval Noah Harari. This is the guy. So in this book, Yuval Noah Harari asks us the question, are we human beings currently at the stage where we will be able to defeat death? As in, can we become Amar, immortal? Is it possible? He says, yes. After the scientific revolution, there are so many new sciences that are now available, new vaccines, new medicines, new treatments that are available, that we are almost at the step of defeating death. There is a project known as the Gilgamesh project, which is focused on making men immortal, Amar, okay? But what Yuval Noah Harari says, that even if we don't become immortal, we might become immortal. Immortal. Now, what is the meaning of immortal? That means that even if we don't live forever, we will not die by aging. We might die by, say, fatal accident or something. If an accident happens to your body, you will die. But by aging, we will not die. We will have proper medicinal treatments to ensure that you will not die by any disease or by aging. But by accident, you might die. That is known as immortal. So Yuval Noah Harari says that we are at that place where we might be able to defeat death itself. In fact, some years ago, life expectancy of the general population was about 24 to 40 years. What does that mean? Manje, a normal human being will live about 24 to 40 years. But now that life expectancy has increased because of the rise in science and technology, medicines, techniques of treatment. Because of that, the life expectancy has increased to 67 all over the world. So people are able to live up to 67 years of age average. And in the developed countries, there about 80 is the average life expectancy. Now, all this, what is it because of? It is because of, obviously, technology, correct? Say, for example, in the age of Shivaji Maharaj, suppose during the war, somebody gets an injury on the hand, very deep injury. What would they do in that case? Most cases, they would have to amputate the arm. But today, with this technology that is available, we will consider that a minor injury. We can easily solve it because we are so well advanced. So, in that way, we have actually come quite close to becoming Amar, correct? To defeating death. Am I right? And all this is thanks to science, technology, and innovation. Now, let's begin with what is science, technology, innovation, and what is IPR. So let's start with what is science. All of you in your school days, I'm sure you must have learned this definition of science, correct? So here it goes. Science is the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation, experimentation, and testing of theories against evidence obtained. So you remember in your science journals, you had observation, experiment, conclusion. That is science. You are observing the physical nature, experimenting, drawing theories, and checking whether the evidence is matching. That is science. What is technology? Technology is the application of science. See, here the definition is there. The application of scientific knowledge for practical purpose, especially in industry. That is technology. And what is innovation? Innovation means something new. A new method, new idea, new product, anything new that is produced is innovation. So what is science, technology, and innovation? Basically, everything that human beings do and create is a part of science, technology, and innovation. Now, let's talk about this. From times immemorial, human beings have believed in the right to property, correct? Suppose we were living in the ancient ages where we are all cavemen, tribal people we are. Even in those days, if one person found some new stone or something new, like a new tree, if I found it, it belongs to me. Even in those days, suppose I wrote something on a stone or on a leaf, that if I have made it, it belongs to me. So from olden days, this right of property exists, correct? That means what is created by me belongs to me. And that is the exact meaning of intellectual property rights. Am I right? I wish I was in person so I could see what is your reaction, but it's all right. So that is intellectual property rights. What I have created belongs to me. So say, for example, I have written a new book. That is my innovation. It belongs to me. Suppose I have created a new machine. That is my innovation. It is my intellectual property. Suppose I have created a new bottle design. Then that design belongs to me. Suppose I have created a new recipe. That recipe belongs to me. I have intellectual property over that recipe. Okay. So that is exactly what is intellectual property. Let's take a look at the definition of intellectual property. So according to the World Trade Organization, WTO, intellectual property rights are the rights given to persons over creations of their mind. So you remember that science, technology, new ideas, new invention, they are all creation of the mind, correct? So the rights given to creating that, when I create a new science, a new technology, a new innovation, I get an intellectual property right over that. So you are understanding how these two meet. Whenever you create some new science or technology or innovation, in that, usually, most cases, you will receive a right over that. Okay? You will receive a personal right over that. Now, say for example, I am a scientist and I have created a drug which cures some sort of cancer. Okay, or it prevents some sort of cancer. Like say for example, you all know the HPV vaccine. If you don't know about it, you should read about it. HPV vaccine is a vaccine which prevents cervical cancer, especially in women, but also men. And it has recently become available in India. And all those who are below 25 years of age should definitely think of taking the vaccine. Okay, so say for example, I have developed this cancer curing drug. Now in this case, I will use that drug for myself because it is my property, correct? So I will keep it for myself. If I ever get any disease, I will cure it for myself, correct? So I made it, only I can use it. Then what is the use? If I have a cancer curing drug, everybody should be able to use it, na? So if I have intellectual property, how will everybody use it? Suppose, even if I commercialize it, okay, suppose I commercialize it and I start selling the drug. Even in that case, because I have intellectual property right over this drug, I will charge 1 lakh rupees for one bottle of that medicine, right? It will become very costly. I will sell at unreasonable rates for long periods of time. Till I die, I will go on selling it. And after I die, maybe my heirs will start selling it. In this case, this personal intellectual property right which I am getting, it is not beneficial to the public, correct? And that is why there is always a debate between should intellectual property be a personal right or should it be a public right? If I have individual right, I will monopolize and I will use it however I want. But this right should be accessible to all the public, and not just accessible, easily accessible at good cost. It should be accessible, correct? So how will the common people benefit? That is why through international treaties and through national laws also, we have come to a balance. We have said that I have created this drug, but I will get patent over it only for so and so period of time. After that, it will be in the public domain. So like that, we have created a balance between personal right and public right. I hope you are all understanding this. And so at this point, we have now found a balance between IPR and intellectual personal right and the right for the public to access that intellectual property right. Okay? Take it. So now that we know the meaning of science, technology, innovation, and IPR, let's talk about the convergence. What is the meaning of convergence? Convergence means where do these two things meet? Where do they meet? Where do they both join together? Okay, so there is a deep connection between IPR and science, technology, and innovation. And in order, so before we go ahead, let's take a look at this quote. So the UN if you look down here, you can see the UN system task team on the post 2015 UN development agenda. This UN system task team has said this thing. Let us read what they have said. They have said, we will not be able to protect and feed and educate our children or keep them healthy if we cannot find better, cheaper, smarter ways of producing goods and bringing them to the markets. So basically what this UN system task team is saying that we need to find better ways. That means we have to innovate more technologies in order to bring cheaper goods to the market, which is accessible to all, so that our children remain healthy, so that our children are protected, so that our children are educated. And for that, we require science, technology, and innovation. Okay. And how do we encourage more and more science, technology, and innovation? The first thing that we need to do is to give IP protection. See, say for example, I have created one drug. And this drug, I don't have any right on it. State takes away the right of the drug and the state is earning money through that drug. Then why will I want to create more drugs? I don't have any interest in creating more. I don't have any incentive to create any more, to do any more research. And that is why IP is also important, because unless you give that intellectual property right to somebody, they will not be ready to, the creativity and the development will be halted without giving these intellectual property rights. And that is why there is need to give intellectual property rights to the science, technology, and innovations, because we need growth. We need growth. And what kind of growth do we need? We need sustainable growth. We need growth that is economically and environmentally sustainable. That means what? That means that growth should help the poor. That growth should prevent climate change. That growth should be sustainable. For long periods of time, we should be able to grow using this science, tech, and innovation and the IPR. So that is where science, technology, and IPR meet. Have you all understood this, and do you have any questions? I'm hoping everybody has understood. If you have not understand, we will again take a look at it at the end of the session. You can ask me questions. So now you have understood that for science and technology, we need to give them IP. Unless we give intellectual property rights to these science and technology creators, they will not be incentivized to work. They will not want to work. Why should I work? I don't have any right. Then why should I work? So we need to give the intellectual property right. And that is where the convergence of science, technology, and IPR comes into play. So how can we ensure that there is proper convergence of science, technology, and IPR? So here are a few things that we should do. First of all, there needs to be proper collaboration between private and public sector. Okay. Unless there is proper collaboration between private and public sector, we cannot ensure that there is optimal growth. If everything is controlled by the public sector, by the government, in that case, there is no creativity. There is no chance for growth. Correct. And if everything is liberalized and given to the private sector, in that case, there will be no control. It will be indiscriminate. There will be no regulation. And so there needs to be a balance and collaboration between private and public sector. So the private and public sector should ensure that there is more science, technology, and innovation. And the public sector should also ensure that there are regulations in place for intellectual property rights, for other regulations with respect to technology, like standard setting or anything else related to intellectual property. Now, second thing that we need to do is to adopt an interdisciplinary approach to research and innovation. You know, Sarunke sir was just talking about my dissertation topic, correct? So my dissertation topic was about women in patent. I was searching how many number of women patent holders are there. So when I was doing this, I was speaking to a few patent holders, okay, Indian patent holders, women and men I was speaking to. And many people told me that in India, we have a very bad research base in colleges and in the private or public sector also. But there is a lack of research and development. Are you understanding? That is why now the government has increased its focus on research and development. Now, because there is no research and development, because of that, there is no innovation. Correct? And then what? Then you don't have to give any intellectual property rights also. But what happens is the growth of the nation is stalled because there is no innovation. And here, what we are talking about, there should not just be innovation and research and development, but they should be interdisciplinary. Means law background students should mix with science background students. Then they can make good policies which are based on science, scientifically proven strategies. Art students should mix with education students so that there are good education reforms. Like that, there should be an interdisciplinary approach when it comes to policy framing and even research and development. You know, since we are all lawyers here, I feel law is a very interdisciplinary field, because when you are studying law, you are studying about laws related to medical negligence. In this case, you have to study medicine a little bit, or you are studying law related to intellectual property, then you have to study intellectual property, or you are studying law related to crime, then you have to understand criminology, victimology. So law is a very interdisciplinary subject, and especially since we are lawyers, we need to ensure that there is an interdisciplinary approach, whether it be law relating to IP or law relating to science and technology. We should ensure that we are collaborating with people from other disciplines. Okay, only then there is proper convergence of STI and IPR. Okay, the third thing what we need to do is capacity building through education. This research, development, and all this, you know where it should begin? It should begin at the school level. And there the students, their capacity to research should be built. And ultimately, this will lead to brain gain. Have you all heard about brain drain? Brain drain means all the intellectual people in the country are going out to abroad countries. That is brain drain. And that is why we need to ensure that there is a brain gain. Manche, all the people in all the intellectuals in our country, they remain within the country. In fact, others should come in our country. Okay. And this can be ensured only by capacity building through education. So that is another thing that we have to do. Another important thing that we need to do is to create platforms and systems to share scientific knowledge. Okay, that means there should be a system where people are able to access scientific knowledge which is free of cost and easily accessible. Like, say, for example, journals, scientific research journals, or just any research journals. Right now, in today's time, you have to pay a paid subscription to get the journal subscription, to be able to read all the articles in that journal. So it is very costly for researchers to do further research. Even for science researchers, if they want to create a new product, create a new machine, innovate something, even then, they are not having platform where the previous knowledge is available already. So that is why the government needs to ensure that there is an equal platform which is easily or at least cheaply available or accessible to all people for science, innovation and technology development in STI. Okay. Next thing that we need is international cooperation in addressing inequalities. Now, as you all know, intellectual property rights, it came from the international regime only. Most countries have derived their intellectual property rights from the international agreements such as the TRIPS, the Paris Convention, the Berne Convention, from the principles that are underlying in these treaties. From that, most of the countries have framed their intellectual property laws. And in the same way, we need science and technology and innovation related laws also to have an international cooperation. Only then we will be able to address any inequalities that arise. Say, for example, we have inequality between rich and poor, or between, say, for example, men and women. There is inequality. And we need to understand at international level that these inequalities are present. Then we will be able to develop technology, to develop innovation and give intellectual property to those technologies which address these inequalities. Are you understanding me? And lastly, there is a big responsibility on policymakers. Policymakers are not just the MPs in the parliament, although they play a major role, but also people, bureaucrats and other people who are involved in drafting the policies. They may be interns, they may be other professionals who are involved in drafting the policy. It's their responsibility to ensure that science, technology, and innovation is boosted through their policies, and all that technology is protected under intellectual property. Okay. All right. Now, this I was telling you generally about the things we can do to ensure that there is growth in STI and protection of that STI through IPR. Okay. But specifically with respect to developing countries, there are certain areas which we need to focus on and which we have to develop. There are about 5 areas which we have added in this slide, in this PPT. And those 5 areas are productive capacity, food security, public health, environment and climate change, and disaster risk reduction. We will be taking a look at all of these one by one. Okay, so now what we are saying is, in developing countries, what should be the approach with respect to STI and IPR? Okay, take it. Starting with productive capacity. Now, in recently, I was doing this FDP, okay, Faculty Development Program, wherein the director of my law college, Dr. Shashikala Gurpur, was talking about how India's manufacturing sector is not very well to do. As in, we are very focused on service sector. We are good in the service sector, and that is why during COVID-19 pandemic we had to face such a sudden burden on the economy, because we were all in the service sector, and manufacturing sector is not that great. Countries like Germany and other European countries, they have a very strong manufacturing sector, and that gives their economy a big boost. And that is why today there is need in developing countries to strengthen productive capacity, which means the manufacturing sector. And we need to invest in the private sector. Say, for example, in small and medium size enterprises, we need to invest in that. That is why the government has been talking about Startup India, right? That is why we need initiatives like the Startup India. And when it comes to manufacturing sector, when it comes to private sector, IP is a big part of the solution, intellectual property. Because in all startups, there is always a lot of intellectual property involved. And there needs to be easy access to protecting intellectual property for these startups as well. The focus needs to be on research so that we are able to come up with new manufacturing techniques, new products, more focus on the startups and small enterprises. And when this happens, when India becomes a manufacturing hub, then we'll be able to attract more FDI, foreign direct investment. We'll be able to contribute to technology transfer, and we will be able to develop the scientific and technological infrastructure in the country, which is great for economical growth. Okay. So that is the first thing with respect to developing countries, that we need to increase our productive capacity and invest in private sector. And this can be done when you converge all this with intellectual property rights. Okay, only then the sector will get a boost. Yeah. Next point that we are going to take a look at is food security. Now, in most developing countries, food security is always a major problem. Now, when the first thing that you think of is the farmers' protests, correct? What we need are policies which are favorable to the farmers and they are more sustainable. All our policies should be framed in such a way that the producers, who are the farmers, are benefiting, the consumers are also benefiting, and ultimately we as a nation are growing. Okay, and these policies should be sustainable. Sustainable manje, we should be able to prolong it for a long time. It should not be so that only for some time we use these policies and then after that we are unable to sustain it. We are unable to keep it going. It should be sustainable. And now when you're making these policies, the focus should not just be on food, but we should focus on land, water, fertilizer, pesticides, incentivizing farmers by reducing subsidies on, by giving subsidies on pesticides and fertilizers, which already exist, but we can do there better there also. We should focus on improved technology and know-how in the farming and agricultural fields. Another thing that we can do, which is related to intellectual property, is adapting better plant varieties. Now, have you all heard about this Plant Varieties Act in India, which protects different sorts of plant varieties that have been developed indigenously by farmers? Okay, so in that way, by developing new plant varieties, you will get incentive, you will get a IPR over that. And so the farmers also will be incentivized to work. So you understand how IPR is related to converging with food security? Yeah. Apart from this, we also need a balanced and transparent legal and administrative framework for IP. Obviously, we need, when you go to file a patent, sometimes it can be a very long process. So that process needs to be simplified. It needs to be balanced. It needs to be transparent. The administrative process as well as the legal process. I'm sure you all must have heard of BT cotton and BT brinjal, right? So if you don't know, both these kinds of BT cotton and BT brinjal, they were genetically modified plants. म्हणजे त्यांच्या genetic structure मध्ये काही बदल करून they have created a new variety of the plant which is very high yielding, or it is pesticide resistant, pest resistant, etc. Okay. But what happened is, because of this BT cotton and BT brinjal, there have been some other altercations. For example, other animals which consumed these crops, later on they had some, they developed some diseases and all that. So this is called mismanagement. Here there is not proper convergence of food security, the technology related to food security and IPR. This is the failure of the convergence. That is why we need good convergence of technology and IPR. Are you understanding? What we need to focus on is not just these modern methods, like genetic modified organisms and all that. We need to go back to our traditional and indigenous knowledge system, sustainable irrigation systems. For example, the best example which I have experienced when I was at NSOT Law College only is the Shetal example. I'm sure you all know what a Shetal, right? So that is a very traditional, and it's not exactly traditional, but modern, but indigenous. Not created by big corporations and not created by the government, some plans, but it is done by the indigenous groups, the farmers and the laborers who are working in the fields. They have developed this technology. So all this should be secured with the help of IP, and then there will be proper convergence of IPR and STI. Okay. Another important sector that we need to look into is public health. Now, can anybody tell me when public health was most highlighted? In the last few years, correct? When COVID-19 pandemic hit, that time we all realized that even developed countries realized that their public health systems are not good enough. And With the climate change and global warming, pandemics are going to become very regular. That is what scientists are saying, that there will be multiple pandemics, there will be a lot of disease and disasters which take place, and that is why our public health system needs to be strong, even in the developed countries, but especially in developing countries, or else our population will face the brunt of not having a proper public health system. Now, how do we ensure that there is a proper public health system? That depends mostly on the educational and preventive programs. We need to educate the public. We need to prevent the transmission of these diseases. We need, apart from that, we also need clinical support. We need access to medicines. We need money, sustainable financing. We need availability of necessary resources and services. Like, say, for example, during COVID-19, there were no hospitals, no place in the hospitals. So services were not available. There was no oxygen. So resources was not available. Correct. So we need to ensure that technology is developed to such an extent that all this is available. So now, with the rise in medical technologies and new innovations in health solutions, we need to ensure that these medical technologies, diagnostic tools, these vaccines, all this are given proper IP protection. There needs to be focus on the health system, not just on certain products, but the whole system. Like, for example, are there enough hospitals for the population? Is there enough resources? Do all the rural hospitals have access to the high level technology which can help the doctors solve the diseases that take place there? So the focus needs to be on the full system, not just on individual areas. And in this case, patent system is very important, mostly because copyright in health sector is rare. It is there for sure, but with respect to the public health system, patents are very important, because they will give you patent on a certain diagnostic technique, a certain medicine, a certain tool which is used for diagnosis or for prevention. So those patents are very important in that case. Also, there should be a mix of ICT. What is ICT? Information and communication technology, for in order to ensure that there is smooth delivery of services. I'll give you one very nice example of this. That is the CoWIN app. The government of India had used the CoWIN app for dissemination of for the vaccine, right? You had to register on the CoWIN app and then you were able to go and get the vaccine. So nowadays, almost 70% of the population has access to mobile phones. And so these public services, such as vaccine delivery or even other public services, can be delivered through these online mediums, such as mobile phones. So that also needs to be considered. And for these apps, for these new ICT technologies also, we need to give intellectual property protection. Only then it will give them impetus. It will make them, it will incentivize more creativity in this sector. Okay. Another thing that developing countries have to focus on is environment and climate change. Now we are talking about development, science and technology, intellectual property, but at what cost? Suppose I develop one technique of extracting lots of coals from the mine. Okay. Is it sustainable? For how many years are you going to collect coal from the mines? For how many years you are going to burn electricity using coal? It is not sustainable. So even if you are developing technology, if it is harming the environment, if it is causing climate change, then that is not sustainable. What the government needs to do in this case, it needs to incentivize those technologies which are climate change adaptable, which are renewable, which are focused on renewable resources rather than on depleting of natural resources, and these orthodox technologies which are not sustainable. Okay. We need to focus on green technology, and more protection, more focus needs to be given, even with respect to IPR, more proper protection needs to be given to this green technology as well. It is a major challenge. The challenge here is to shift from fossil fuel. Right now, they say in India, 80% of the electricity is generated through coal. म्हणजे no matter how much plastic you stop using, you as an individual, if you start using electric bike, electric car, electric cooker, electric gas, everything you do, but that electricity is generated by coal only, then what is the use? Yeah. So we need large scale, matlab at government level, at international level, we need large scale development of technology in order to shift from fossil fuel to environmentally sound technology. And that is why, as I was saying before, we need policies that incentivize R&D, research and development in renewable energy sources, plus transfer adaptation and widespread dissemination of these techniques and technologies. Okay. Not only do we need to change the power sources, like for example, move from non-renewable to renewable sources, but also we need to focus on reducing energy consumption. As you know, actually speaking, in India, per capita use of per capita use of resources is much less compared to the US. Now, US has very low population, India has very high population. And in spite of that, the US is using, each person in the US is using a lot more resources compared to each person in India. Okay, and so the focus should be on reducing our dependence on these resources. We should try to live very sustainably, like how our grandmothers and grandfathers used to live in our villages back in the day, you know, sustainably. Reuse, recycle, and not much plastic, not much energy consumption. Go to sleep early when it becomes dark, so that you are not using these lights and these fans and switches and all that. So sustainable way of living also. And here, as I was just saying, the role of indigenous and local communities is very important in order to bring back that indigenous and traditional values into the society today. All right. The last thing that we need to take a look at is disaster risk reduction. You see, with climate change, with global warming, and just naturally also, the chances of natural disasters are very high. Especially with climate change, we know that now, since there is an increase in the water levels, all the coastal regions are at a high risk of being submerged. Now there will be more erratic changes in climate, weather conditions, which will lead to disasters. And that is why we need to increase the technology, especially in developing countries, with respect to disaster risk also. What sort of technologies? It may be space technologies. Here I have mentioned space technologies such as satellite communication, Earth observation systems, tsunami early warning signs, satellite navigation technology. Okay, and you combine all this with ICT and you are able to generate real-time data. So from the satellite, this technology, I'm able to understand that, okay, now within 2 hours, a tsunami is going to come in this place. And using that technology plus technology of ICT connection with the people in that area, you are able to avoid any human loss. For example, the cyclone in Odisha, there was no human casualties because of this good coordination, use of science technology and ICT to disseminate information. So that is one sort of technology. Also, there can be surface-based technology such as climate monitoring, agriculture and food security, land management, public health. All this needs to be integrated into our decision support systems. And we need to ensure that all tools are available for disaster preparedness. Understood? So even for disaster management, we need these science and technology, which can be incentivized with the use of intellectual property. Okay. Now, coming to the last point, what do we do in order to properly converge the same? Here I have about 9 points which we'll be taking a look at. Let's quickly take a look at them and then we'll move on to the question and answers. So first of all, we need to, action step 1 is to specify public policy goals with respect to science, technology and innovation. What is our national goal of how much scientific development do we want to achieve? What are the standards that these research centers need to follow? What is the policy that I want to generate in order to enhance STI using IP, using any other techniques? So what are these specific public policy goals that I have with respect to STI that we need to determine? Who can do this? The government, the researchers, all these people can ensure that these public policies are designed in such a way that they boost science and technology using intellectual property. Second action step is there needs to be an interface between policymakers and scientific community. Whereas what happens is that policymakers, government is making laws, but they are not consulting the scientific community, or they are consulting very small scientific community. It is not broad enough. Because of that, the policies are not very useful. And that is why they need to mix both policymakers and scientific community. They need to sit together and design the policy. Then our policies will be proper science-based policies. Third action step, development-driven scientific research. Now, as I told you before, we need to increase the science research and development at all stages, educational institutions, at public and private sectors, everywhere, okay, all institutions. But this research needs to be focused on development. And what sort of development? Sustainable development. So that can be achieved through policy again. It can be achieved through IPR policy again. Okay. Fourth action step, scientific community included in planning developmental funding. So scientific community should not just be part of the policy making, but also of developmental funding, because they will know how much funding will be required for this project, how much funding is adequate for this project. So that is why we need to include the scientific community in the developmental funding as well. Next, as I told you before, access of scientific findings to development practitioners. I told you before, right? Research is not easily available to all people who are doing research. The previous research is not available, people who are conducting research today. And that is why, or it is very costly, very not accessible to them. And so we need to be able to allow for a platform for sharing of scientific knowledge. Moving to action step number 6. Promote access of information and technology to create public-private partnership for ITC growth. So, we need to ensure that information and technology can be used to create access should be given to information technology in order to create public-private partnerships and growth of ICT. And all this can be done through, first of all, of course, they should be public-private partnerships, and also they should be focused on ensuring IP is given protection. Then we have action step number 7. Now, the funding by government for research should be based on science development interface. Now, you know, very often the government does a lot of funding for research, correct? Scholarships for research and all that is available by the government. In these cases, that funding should be based on science development interface. Matlab, the government should say, only if your research is based on development, then I will give you 1.5 lakhs for your research. Otherwise, if it is not based on development, then I'll give you 50,000. Understanding? So incentivize research related to development and protect that research using IP also, obviously. Okay. Action step number 8 talks about development funding by government based on scientific science development interface. Here we were talking about research should be based on development. Here we are saying that science development should be based on there we were talking about research funding. Here we were talking about development fund. Again, developing fund also should be based on science development interface. And lastly, we need to strengthen autonomous national capacities and access to data at no or low cost. So by doing all these things, we should strengthen our national autonomous capacities. All the data that is available at national level should be able, as I said before, should be able to be accessed by everybody to ensure that there is proper research and development. So I hope you all have understood how IPR can be used as an incentive tool to increase science, technology, and innovation. And ultimately, for developing countries, we have seen in which all sectors we require that science, technology, and innovation, and how that can happen with the help of intellectual property. Okay. Now, we as IP lawyers, or just as lawyers, we are the center point for policy framing. We can use our research, our suggestion. We should use our voice in order to bring about these policy changes, not just for us, but for the protection of IP generally, for sustainable national growth, and as well to deal with climate change and other disasters. Okay. So with this, I come to an end to my lecture. Here are some acknowledgements and resources, references that are available. And also I have given you my contact details on the last slide. I will ask Sarunke sir to share this PPT with the students whenever possible. Now, let's take a look at any of the questions that you all have. Do you have any questions? Yeah, Asmita Shah raised your hand.
थँक्यू मॅम. जर आपल्याला IPR मध्ये करिअर करायचं असेल तर त्यासाठी काय करावं लागेल, जरा असं गाईडलाईन द्या.
ओके, तर मी LLM IPR मध्येच केली आहे, बट माझं करिअर एक्झॅक्टली IPR मध्ये नाहीये, बट स्टील मी IPRच शिकवते. For example, currently I'm an assistant professor. So it depends on what is your skills also. Okay. Now, first of all, you have that one option, what I have done. After completing your LLB, you can specialize in intellectual property. Find an LLM which has a specialization in intellectual property. It is not necessary, but it will be good for you. So you can take academics with specialization in intellectual property. Now, if you don't want to do that and you want to become an IP lawyer जर व्हायचं असेल, then in that case, usually you can become a trade. There are different jobs. For example, you can be a patent agent, you can be a patent attorney, you can be a trademark agent. Okay. So if you want to become a patent agent, usually you require a science degree. Okay, as a patent agent तुम्हाला बनायचं असेल, then you will require a science degree, आणि मग science degree is required for patent agent, आणि त्यांचं एक exam पण असते patent agent. But if you want to be a patent attorney, you will have to have science degree plus law degree, then you become a patent attorney. तसं पण करू शकता तुम्ही. If nothing happens, then you can start practicing in the field of patents. याच्यासाठी काही specialization काही लागत नाही. Directly you can start. Generally, in places like Sangli, it is now developing. Slowly, people are understanding the importance of intellectual property, and they are copywriting, patenting, and all that. But IP practice is not very prevalent. So you can think of joining a law firm where there is intellectual property practice. You can just do some research on LinkedIn or even on Google. You search for a law firm where they do intellectual property practice, and मग तिथं apply करा. जॉबसाठी. कळालं का अस्मिता?
हो कळालं कळालं. थँक्यू मॅम.
थँक्यू. Any other questions?
There
Regarding-
is one question from my end.
Yes, sir.
Is there any, what is the reason behind it that as compared to other European and countries and US, the patent total patent awarded in India, what is the reason to less number of patents awarded in India?
Yes, sir. Sir, this is a brilliant question. And actually, my dissertation topic, although it was not exactly on this, it was with respect to low number of women. But even then, I will explain to you. मी जेव्हा माझं डिझर्टेशन करत होते तेव्हा मी काय व्हॉट वॉज आय फोकसिंग ऑन की मला बघायचं होतं की मेनच्या कम्पॅरिझन मध्ये विमेन किती पेटंट होल्डर्स असतील इंडियामध्ये. ओके. आणि ते बघताना मला कळालं की फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल इंडियामध्ये जे पेटंट होल्डर्स आहेत ना मोस्टली फॉरेन पेटंट होल्डर्स आहेत. म्हणजे ते पेटंट आपण IP.India.co.in असं काहीतरी वेबसाईटचं नाव आहे. पण IP इंडिया वेबसाईटवर गेलो ना तर तिथं पेटंट डेटाबेस मध्ये आपण बघू शकतो की कुठले कुठले इन्व्हेंटर्स आहेत, त्यांची नावं, इन्व्हेन्शन वगैरे आहे. बट अबाउट 90% पेटंट सगळे फॉरेन इन्व्हेंटर्सचे आहेत. म्हणजे दुसरे लोक येऊन इथं पेटंट करायला लागले त्यांची पेटंट. आणि इंडियन मे बी हार्डली 10% पेटंट होल्डर असतील. आणि त्या 10% मधलं एक स्मॉल त्या 10%चं 5% मध्ये 5% विमेन होते 2009 मध्ये. आणि आता 2019 मध्ये त्यांचं इन्क्रीज 16% विमेन पेटंट होल्डर झाले, इंडियन विमेन. So Salunkhe sir is absolutely right कि there are very few number of patent holders in India. Now, मी जेव्हा हे रिसर्च करत होते तेव्हा काही पेटंट होल्डरशी बोलले फोनवर. तर त्यांचं काय म्हणणं आहे की हे का होते, कारण आपलं रिसर्च अँड डेव्हलपमेंट खूप वीक आहे. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल ते मला सांगितले की इंजिनिअरिंग मध्ये असू दे, BSc मध्ये असू दे, लॉ मध्ये असू दे, तिथे आपल्या कॉलेजेसमध्ये सिलेबस इज नॉट अपडेटेड. म्हणजे इंजिनिअरिंग, एस्पेशली मी पेटंट होल्डरशी बोलत होते ना, तर ते पेटंट होल्डर्स इंजिनिअरिंग मोस्टली मधले होते. तर ते काय सांगितले मला दॅट इंजिनिअरिंगचं सिलेबस अजून 1980s मधला सिलेबस आहे. आणि काही आता ते इंजिनियर्स पेटंट होल्डर्स होऊन ते अब्रॉड गेलेत आणि तिथं बघायला गेलं तर किती ऍडव्हान्स्ड एज्युकेशन मेथड्स आहेत. वी नीड टू अपडेट अ सिलेबस फर्स्ट थिंग. बिकॉज इट्स नॉट अपडेटेड. स्टुडंट्स अचानक मार्केटमध्ये येतात आणि त्यांना माहित नाही. प्रॅक्टिस एकदम वेगळंच असते आणि स्टडी केलेलं एकदम वेगळंच. अँड देन दॅट इज वन थिंग. ठीक आहे. So educational system needs to improve, update the syllabus. Secondly, we need more practical experiences for the students. Practical research and development. तर हे जे research and developmentचं जे भावना आहे ना, रिसर्चचं क्युरिओसिटी टू नो मोर, हे भावना we need to develop in the students from school days. So the students should be allowed to do creative things. They should be allowed to try new things, even if they fail. Failing is good, but they should be allowed to try new things, even if they fail. And then in colleges also, our focus should be on research and development. And that research should be focused on development of science, technology, and policy, which results in ultimate growth of the nation. So whether it is law college or it is some science-based college, engineering college, medical college, there needs to be a fixed R&D cell or some like a department in the college which is focused on research, which encourages all the students to participate in research. For example, I will give you a very nice method that Symbiosis Law School Pune has adopted. Here they have at the end of your 5-year law course, you have to do 5 internships, or you have to do 4 internships and 1 research paper compulsory needs to be published in a Scopus journal. Scopus journal is a very well-known journal, okay? And that is Scopus Q1, Q2, Q3 journal. So what we are doing by this, we are incentivizing research. Like these policies needs to be brought in educational institutions and also in private MSMEs and other institutions as well. So, sir, I think that is the reason, our research and development is quite backward, and also the educational sector.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Is there any questions?
Ashish, you have something?
Please, Mr. Ashish.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am.
Morning, sir.
Ma'am, rightly you have stated that 5 areas of improvement. In that, fourth number, the environment and climate change. Regarding that, I have to ask, ma'am, म्हणजे आता पूर्व परंपरागत आपल्याकडे ज्या चालीरीती रूढी परंपराच्या माध्यमातून आपण जे आतापर्यंत जगत आलेलो आहे त्याचं आपल्याला सिक्युअर्ड लाईफस्टाईलच्या बाबतीत किंवा ज्या आता तुम्ही जे सांगितलं की फॉसिल फ्युएल पासून ते रियुजेबल आणि सस्टेनेबल रिसोर्सेस तयार झाले पाहिजेत, वाढवले पाहिजेत आणि ते संवर्धित केले पाहिजेत, तशा रिलेटेड काय करता येईल का, म्हणजे पेटंटच्या बाबतीत, IPRच्या बाबतीत असं?
हो सर, आणि मी ऍक्च्युली तेच एक्सप्लेन करत होते त्या सेगमेंट मध्ये की हे बघा सर, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल लेट मी एक्सप्लेन दिस. आपण सपोज एव्हरी डे इन द मॉर्निंग वी पुट द चुला, करेक्ट?
राईट.
आपण काही लोक बाय युझिंग द चुला, हे ट्रेडिशनल मेथड ऑफ मेकिंग फूड और वॉटर हॉट एंड ऑल दैट, just by 2-3 people making the chula, we are not causing climate change, sir. This climate change is caused by big corporations who are burning lots of coal to for manufacture, for other reasons. Okay, so we are not as individual responsible for climate change exactly, not exactly. We are all responsible in the end, but what we need to focus is on this these big corporations. Okay, if I stop burning gas, I start using electrical gas, what is going to happen? I told you, right, की आपलं मोस्टली भारतामध्ये 80% इलेक्ट्रिसिटी कोलवर चालते. मग काय उपयोग मी इलेक्ट्रिकल कुकर आणून, बरोबर?
सॉरी टू इंटरप्ट मॅम, पण आपल्या इथं आता नेशनची पॉलिसी अशी आहे की गॅसची योजना माननीय पंतप्रधानांनी सगळ्या देशभरात लागू केली की गॅस तुम्ही घ्या 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 ह्या उद्देशाने. आणि मला ती कुठेही पॉलिटिकली कोरिलेट करायचं नाहीये, पण एका बाजूला आपण असं म्हणतोय की नैसर्गिक साधन संपत्तीचा ऱ्हास थांबवला पाहिजे आणि दुसऱ्या बाजूला आपण त्याचं प्रमोशन पण करतोय. म्हणजे पॉलिसीमध्ये जे डिफरन्शिएशन ब्युरोक्रेसी किंवा पार्लमेंट कडनं होतंय किंवा जे कोण आपले पॉलिसी मेकर्स आहेत त्यांच्याकडनं होतंय, तिथं ह्या गोष्टीला आळा बसला पाहिजे, हे माझं प्रामाणिकपणे मत आहे.
Absolutely right, sir. Absolutely, you're absolutely right. There needs to be a change in policy, and mainly तुम्ही जे फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन विचारला ना, आपण जेव्हा डेव्हलपमेंट करतोय, तो डेव्हलपमेंट फक्त बिझनेस डेव्हलपमेंट इकॉनॉमिक पर्स्पेक्टिव्हनी नसलं पाहिजे, म्हणून मी ते सेगमेंट तिथं टाकले, एन्व्हायरमेंट अँड क्लायमेट चेंज. दॅट when we are promoting science and technology, that science and technology should be based on renewable sources, should be based on environmentally sound technology, on green technology, and those technologies should be given additional IP protection or faster IP protection, or there should be some sort of incentives given to these kinds of technologies by the government, which will ensure that these technologies are given thoda badhawa milel त्यांना, those technologies. Yes,
right.
And that is why you're absolutely right. We as lawyers are the change makers, because we can suggest policy changes. We can tell them that our approach needs to be environmentally friendly. Yes, sir.
Yes,
But brilliant question. Thank you for that.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Do we have any other more questions, or else we can wrap up?
Yes, ma'am. Can I ask you?
Yes, Priyanka. Yes.
Ma'am, is brain drain system as a big factor for reason of minimum patent holders in India?
Good question. It's possible. It's possible that the brain drain is a reason, but mainly, as I was telling Saunke sir before, more than brain drain, it is possibly the lack of education focus, and also lack of focus on research and development. Because unless we get that research mindset, we will never try to research. Okay, even I was not inclined on research till I understood its importance. Okay, and that is why we also, even at NSOT, we should try our level best to engage in research which is based on sustainable development, which is based on science and technology and sustainable development. So yes, Priyanka, that may be small factor, but I don't think it contributes much.
Okay. Thank
Yes.
you, ma'am.
Good question though. Okay, I think we don't have any more questions, right? Yeah. All right then. Thank you everybody for listening. Okay, I just want to say thank you everybody for listening. It was wonderful being here, and thanks for your patience, thanks for your questions, and I look forward to many more lectures like this if the college allows. Saranki sir, Amol sir, shall we?
Hello.
Yes.
Minute, just a minute. Amol.
Somebody is saying kindly share PPT with us for reference. I will surely give you the PPT. I think, sir, may I give the PPT in the chat box only?
No, you can send me by mail.
Okay, sir. I will send it to you by mail.
I would like to extend my vote of thanks to the today's resource persons, Assistant Professor Natasha Martin ma'am, for taking time out from her busy schedule and for such valuable guidance. Certainly, we are benefited from your deep knowledge and expertise. Now, I would like to vote of thanks to the Principal AMS Officer, the Coordinator Avinash Saurke sir, staff members, organizers who have helped us and organize everything and make this event possible. Now, with the permission of the coordinator of the lead college activity, I declare this seminar is over.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Natasha ma'am. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for organizing and thank you for everything. Thanks to all the participants as well.